Hi, this is Steve Wraith, and thanks for listening to the Steve Wraith interviews. This interview was recorded during 2020's lockdown period and was part of a special series. Hi, Matty, you okay, mate?
Steve, okay? How you doing, mate? Good? Good?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on, mate. And pleasure to have you on. And obviously, we'll be joined by a lot of Newcastle fans who I'm sure will be wanting to know your take on the takeover. First of all, how are you coping with lockdown and this whole COVID outbreak? Obviously, you've got a family yourself, etc., and you know you're coaching at Gateshead these days. But how's it affected you?
Well, just first, obviously, I bumped into you the other day, and I mentioned that you know, obviously, with the lockdown, it's a horrible situation for everybody involved. But it has given myself the opportunity to spend a lot more time with my family, which, you know, it's been great. Thoroughly enjoyed that. But obviously, just wish it had been under different circumstances. You know, in terms of obviously work and coaching at Gateshead, that's all sort of stopped for the time being, as you know. So that's been a little bit frustrating, not being involved and not being able to go in every day and work and train and see the lads. So it's been tough as well, but at the same time, it has been enjoyable, and I've been able to do things that, you know, I wouldn't normally been able to do, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's affected everybody in different ways, and like we said when we bumped into each other, it's the homeschooling's difficult because the kids aren't used to that. If I was a kid, I'd be over the moon. You know, going from having 6 hours at school to having a couple of hours at home with my parents, where they weren't as strict as my teachers. I think that would be great. But you know, it's one of those things that they've all got to adapt as well. You know, I think everyone's got to adapt, and I think that's the hard part for everybody. You know.
Of course, you know, and I think in this situation, everybody's going to be different. You know, obviously everybody's kids are different, and they respond to different ways and you know, of teaching and different methods, and you know, we've obviously had to adapt and find out what works best for our kids, and you know, it's been tough. You know, by no means has it been easy, and I think obviously a lot of people just have got to realise that, you know, we're not teachers, and they can't force the issue like ridiculously. Do you know what I mean? And it's just you just got to do as much as you can possibly do, and that you're comfortable doing, you know?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Right, we'll take questions as they come. So anyone's got any questions for Matty, fire away. There's the first one on the screen. How did you like playing for Glen Roeder?
Well, it was great. Obviously, throughout my career, Glen's done really well for me. You know, coming into the academy at the time he did, obviously took a shine to myself. And then ended up taking me up into the first team and giving me an opportunity, which was great. You know, at the time at the club, we had a fantastic group of players, really, really talented, and if anything, we probably underachieved in many ways with the quality we had. But no, certainly, Glenn, he done wonders for my career. Obviously, something that I'll always be grateful for.
Yeah, there's John Ball's question. He says, "Is that right that you're back in Gateshead's books as a first-team player? Is that right, Matty? You're still fit enough to play?"
Yeah, towards the end of the season, I was registered. You know, I hadn't moved. I was doing my academy role, and then getting involved more with the first team on the coaching side of things as well. And I did, and they did. Obviously, Mike did register me, which was good. And I was joining the sessions and getting involved on the sort of match days. So I think I came on in one of the games and played 25 minutes. So I was enjoying it. So again, I was a bit devastated that it was cut short this season, because we were also in a very good place as a club and as a squad. So that was frustrating. But you know, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next season, but I did enjoy getting back on the playing side of things as well.
Yeah, best. We'll take a few questions now as well. Gent says, who was the best player that you played with at the academy when you were there?
Oh, the academy. It's a tough one. That there was a lot of players that were real quality, that maybe didn't go on to maybe have a career as good as I thought they would have done. I think probably the likes of Chops was probably the best at the time in terms of just being a natural goal scorer. You know, he would make things look so easy back in them days. He would obviously be heavily involved with the first team, but would come down and play under 19 games from time to time. And I ended up spending a lot of time, obviously, in Australia, where we went for a tour and got to see him firsthand. And he was real quality back then.
Yeah, 100%. Colin Wilson's asking if we remember the road a step over. I certainly can. I'm old enough, and I was going to the games back then. He was a hell of a player, Glenn Roeder. I mean, you know, he didn't have a bad time as a manager at Newcastle, but as a player, he was exceptional. I'm not sure whether you would remember him, Matty, but he was great in his Newcastle days.
I mean, I don't really remember him as a player, but he did bring that step over out a couple of times when he tried to join in. Probably didn't look as good, mind, but he tried it anyway.
Yeah. RPB says, would there be anything that you would change in your professional football career?
I get this question a hell of a lot, of various people, and I'd have to say I probably wouldn't, and people find that strange, but you know, I've had a fantastic life up to now with football, and people say to me, well, obviously I've had my fair share of controversy as well, and people do say, do you wish you had been a bit more professional at times, or maybe done things a little bit differently? And it's a tough one to answer, but you know, I really enjoyed some of my times, and if I had been maybe that little bit more dedicated, I probably wouldn't have done what I did, and had some, you know, really fantastic times with so many good people in the game. You know, and that's just my personality. I like to enjoy myself. I loved going out, as you've probably seen a couple of times over the years.
Yeah.
You know, and I have obviously settled down with wife and kids now, but it's a tough one. You know, it's I like to say I've loved my life, and I don't think I would have changed a hell of a lot.
Life experience, mate, and your life's mapped out, I believe. So, you know, why not? And at least, you know, you've had some great opportunities, as you say. Tom Dixon says, Matty, what was Mike Williamson like as a player and a coach at Gateshead?
Well, Mike's still obviously very fit, you know, quality player. You know, he leads by example at the club. And as a manager, he's got his own methods. He's got his own philosophy that he believes in, and it seems to work really well. He's not one of the managers that'll fly off the handle. He's very calm and collected. You probably know a bit of him obviously when he was at Newcastle. He's got that personality, and I think the players really respond well to it. I certainly do, and he's got a really good balance at the moment.
Yeah. Caden White says, who do you think's been the best player in the Premier League so far? I'm not sure whether you've been watching the Match of the Day podcast with Gary Lineker, Shearer and Wrighty, but they've been quite good, and they're certainly throwing up a few debates. And they've had this one on their show. But who do you think's been the best player in the Premier League so far?
It's a tough one to answer, because if you're going to go off solely off goals, it'll obviously be Big Al, won't it?
Yeah.
But in terms of really enjoying someone and watching him play, I probably would have to say Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
You know, in my time watching the Premier League, he was breathtaking at times, wasn't he?
It's so difficult, really, because there has been a few, and most of them were at Manchester United, because essentially Man United went through that amazing 20-year period where they won everything. But, of course, Arsenal had the Invincibles, went through the entire season unbeaten. Cantona's got to be up there, I suppose, as far as Manchester United's concerned. I mean, you know, Manchester United were a one-man team, especially that season. They beat Newcastle to the league. But, yeah. I mean, it's so difficult, really, to pick out one main player. Cristiano Ronaldo is probably another, and at least we had the joy of seeing him in the Premiership. But again, he was at Manchester United, and I suppose Man City have got a few players as well now who will be coming close to that if they continue to win things.
Yeah.
Phil Carty says, if there was one player in the current squad that you would like to have played with, who would it be?
At Newcastle, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, Newcastle, yeah.
Again, it's another good question. I'd probably have to say I like watching Shaw. I think he's quality. And Shelby, I think Shelby's a hell of a player, quality player. But maybe gets a lot of stick for not being great on the other side of the game. But certainly, as a midfield player, I love watching the way he sprays the ball around.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good point. I mean, Shelby's not my favourite player. I've got to admit, I love Shaw. I think he's been fantastic. We're spoiled for choice at the back. I was expecting you to say somebody quicker. I was expecting you to say some Maximum Almiron, so you didn't have to do much running.
To be fair, I do like watching Almiron gets a lot of stick as well, and he's cost quite a lot of money. But he puts a proper shift in.
Yeah.
And you can't fault him for that. Yeah, I think that little bit of quality might come if he gets the opportunity. Another lad, again, a little bit raw, Maximum, but I think he's definitely got quality.
Yeah, 100%. Ryan Harrison says, who was the best player that you've played with in South Africa?
Oh, South Africa. There was a few there. I'm not so sure that many people will know them. And if you, I recognise the name and tell him he definitely wasn't the best one. I'd probably have to say there was a lad called Dominguez. He was probably the best I've played with out there. Yeah.
Blackster says, ask him if he misses playing at the Mission and bench him, from Wayne Black.
Just a bit. To be fair, that's all I used to do as a kid. I used to take a ball just down the road from where I lived. I used to just kick it around all day there, constantly for hours on end, and I loved it. Yeah.
Ben Charlton says, do you think the takeover is going to happen, Matty?
It certainly looks like it. You read all the things on Twitter about it, and it certainly looks that way. I would say that it's probably definitely more than not going to happen. Obviously, yourself probably knows a bit more than me, but I would love to see it happen.
Yeah, I do believe it's going to happen. I just think that the silence is golden. I think at previous attempts of the takeovers, Mike Ashley's come out long before now and called people time wasters and pulled the whole deal off. But I think the fact that it's been confirmed, at Company's House, there's directors been announced, and we're hearing nothing is such a positive, and there's always going to be that leak. And this time it hasn't come from the media, it's come from Company's House. And that's because, our fans are obsessional about the club. They want news, they want to know what's going on. And we do have passionate fans who will sit and monitor things like Company's House. And that's why the news came out. I know there was that leak in the American financial paper, but essentially, if the deal's done, it's going to come out at some point. And I don't worry at all about all of these things which have sprung up in the press, because literally 99.9% of the stuff that's been in the papers has been clickbait. It's been stuff to generate, income for newspapers who are not selling as many hard copies because people are locked down, and are relying on us, the general public, clicking on things to get news. And you get sick of clicking stuff and finding that it's not actually a story, and that's pretty sad, but that's the way that they have to make their money, and that they're basically using our passion and our curiosity to make money. And I think it's sad because a lot of fans have been misled, especially on Twitter.
Yeah, of course. And I've seen it myself. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on Twitter, and what people obviously have to remember is, what's happening in the world right now isn't making things happen any quicker, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
So people obviously have to be patient, and I'm sure that the right announcements will come at the right time. But again, would love to see it happen. Certainly.
Yeah, John Ball says, what did you make of Paul Brayson? He was going to be the next big thing at Newcastle United, but it never quite materialised.
Obviously, I didn't play with Brassy at Newcastle. He was a little bit before my time. Mm-hmm. Still seeing him play a lot, sort of lower down the leagues, and
cracking player.
Oh, he's got, again, it's a bit similar to Chops. He's got an eye for goal. I think he's still scoring 40-odd goals in the Northern League. So definitely a quality player.
Yeah, Yeah, DJ Bonyaka says, "Hi there, lads. Matty, how would you compare the English Premier League to the Premier Soccer League in South Africa? How does it stand up?"
It's not quite near the Premier League in England just yet. It's a fantastic league, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. It was good quality. I would just say that probably the difference, I think, which on the African continent is probably a little bit different to the European continent. You get a lot of individual players that have got real quality, but aren't quite at that level when you throw them into a team situation and understanding the dynamics of a team, and sort of discipline and stuff like that on a football field.
Yeah,
they're a little bit off in that regard. And the fans, they want to see the tricks and the flicks, and obviously someone like myself going over there that was a bit more sort of disciplined, and we kept it simple. They didn't quite like that. I think they grew to like me because they started understanding that that I'd done things that maybe they didn't see. But certainly the Premier League's it's still a long way off the Premier League in this country. There's just quality in that league, in the Premier League. It's not many leagues in the world can compete with, and certainly not the South African league at the moment.
No. Michael Terrell says, "Who had the best banter in the car driving to training in the academy days?"
He was up there, like he had great banter, but he always used a third party to get it out there.
Tom Dixon says, "Matty, what was it like when you were at Wickham? Did the pressure get you too much picking the team?" I don't think it was that, Matty, was it? It was more, Wickham's a great club, but there's been a lot of issues up there in recent seasons. Yeah,
listen, it was tough. If I had to be brutally honest, I would probably say I maybe jumped into that a little bit sort of too soon, and maybe came a little bit too early in my coaching career. Obviously where I started at the academy at Gates, it was probably the level I needed to start at. But I thought it was an opportunity I could jump into and try and get things going. I'm not going to make excuses. We had a terrible time with getting a fit squad together, but it was a tough one because obviously I worked with a lot of my mates. I played there first as a player, and when you've got to try and get that balance of now being a manager and working with your mates and trying to get the best out of them, when you're the first one to go and have a pint with them in the pub after a game, it's difficult. So it's something that I found tough, but wouldn't have changed it again. It was a learning curve, and it'll definitely sort of hold me in good stead moving forward in the future. I think a great experience.
Great answer, Matty. Mark Dill says, "Matty, I hope you're well. I miss our nights out at Blue Bamboo and Pravda, rocking around suit jackets and t-shirts."
So do I. It's great times. Obviously, you used to see a lot of yourself in and around town then, and it was a fantastic time being that age. Playing for a club the size of Newcastle, which is, like you said before, the passion of the fans and in the city was phenomenal, and to be able to go out and experience that with them, and sometimes used to get a few people that would sort of rub me up the wrong way, which is understandable. Again, it's the passion probably overflowing out of them, but what a city to be involved in back then.
Yeah, amazing times. Tom says, "Matty, what's your favourite drink, and will you be drinking cans when the takeover is done at Newcastle United?" It's a question everybody gets asked. What can would you have once that takeover is announced?
Well, I've just seen my old manager Robin on Instagram the other day. He had a Moretti pump in his garden. So,
did he?
I think I might get one of them.
Just have a barrel.
I think I'll pour a couple of them when it goes through.
Paddy B. Good says, "Who was the fastest, Alan O'Brien or Sonic the Hedgehog?"
His pace was unbelievable. People ask the question, and he was one of them players that, and people think that I'm sort of exaggerating, but when he was in full sprint, it was almost like it wasn't real. He was that quick. I always remember going back to we went to Australia. And we got good crowds coming to the tournament to watch the games, and he had a worldie the one day against Bayern Munich, and the fans, he went past this. I mean, the right back had an absolute nightmare, but it was because he just couldn't live with him, and people were in awe of his pace. It was frightening, his pace.
Yeah, amazing player. Good, great young lad as well at the club at the same time as you. Gent says, bacon butty, do you have red or brown sauce? And do you butter your bread first? We'll get some great questions on this question and answer session.
Certainly brown sauce, and I do butter my bread first. I didn't know there was any other way you could do it.
Gary Cooper says, any takeover news? No, not at all, mate. There's one thing you need to do to get takeover news, and that's sit in front of Sky Sports News and wait for the yellow ticket to say the takeover's done, because that's the first that anyone will hear of it, I'm sure. Kev Thompson, he gets in quickly with a dinner date question. It's another one of our regular questions. You get a chance to take 3 people to a dinner party. Who would you take? They can be alive, they can be dead, they can be people you know, they can be celebrities you don't know. It can be whoever you want. Who would you take?
The first one will have to be David Jason. He'd be my first choice.
Yeah.
I would love to have a dinner party with him. Then I'd probably say David Beckham. Obviously, be a big idol of mine. Love watching him as a player, and obviously now what he's got on to do, he would certainly be one. And then I've been watching the Michael Jordan documentary, which I'm sure a lot of people have been watching as well. So I think he might be on the list as well, just to see the drive and the dedication from him. And touching back on that question earlier, and he goes on about it in the documentary about, sort of greatness comes with a massive sacrifice. And that's something that I didn't have as a player, and to be the best comes with such sacrifice and such dedication. And to see the way he was and the way he was with his teammates is, it's something else to watch.
Yeah, if anybody hasn't managed to watch that on Netflix, I can recommend it along with Matty there, The Last Dance. I'm not sure whether, I haven't looked at how many episodes there is, but I think I'm up to episode 4 or 5, and it's absolutely fascinating. And I'm not a basketball fan, really. I'm not somebody who's paid much attention to it, but you don't really need to be a basketball fan to watch that documentary, because it's an amazing documentary, not just about his life, but a period of, the Chicago Bulls time, the basketball team. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. And I'm like yourself. I'm not a big basketball fan at all. But I think you can appreciate any sport where there's players play at that level.
Yeah, 100%. And as I say, it covers a lot of them. Magic Johnson's on there, and Kobe Bryant's on there as well. God rest his soul. So it's an amazing program. Well worth a watch. The Last Dance. Kev Hender's asking if there's one thing you would change about your football career. What would it have been? We've answered that question, Kev. He wouldn't change a thing. He's happy with his lot, and he's had a great career. Cami Kitso says, Matty, how was it making the move from South Africa at an early age and joining Newcastle's academy? And great stuff, Steve. Thank you. So yeah, what was it like adapting, to that move from South Africa to Newcastle?
I think with me it wasn't too hard, because I was coming over at a time when I was jumping straight into secondary school. So, where my brother was 2 years older than me, it was a little bit difficult for him coming over and going into sort of year 9 at the time, where I jumped straight into year 7. So I was sort of starting afresh as a lot of people were at that time. And I, coming over from South Africa, I really thought that, I was, and this obviously wasn't the same for every sort of school in the area, but I was worried that I wasn't going to be that good of a footballer compared to people in this country, because I was born in South Africa, and I knew that I was decent and I was at a good level over there, but I always had this picture in my mind because of the Premier League and whatnot, that it was everyone over here was going to be real quality, So coming over, that transition was once I realised that actually I'm probably one of the better players at my age. It made that transition a lot easier. And obviously I went to Redriff Boys and played there for a couple of years before I actually ended up at Newcastle, and I had some great times there. And then things just went from there. Obviously, joined Newcastle at 12 years old, just going on 13, and thoroughly enjoyed my time at the academy, moving up through the ranks.
Yeah, great stuff. Future KGP says, what was it like being in the same dressing room as Alan Shearer?
Unbelievable. Watching him over the years, and obviously like the Geordie, sort of the hero coming home, and I was still over in South Africa when he made that move, and watching it as a kid, it was unbelievable. So ending up playing with him for a couple of years, and I mean not a hell of a lot, but I would, because I didn't make that many appearances, but being around him at training every day and seeing what he was all about, and seeing the other side of him, not the playing side, which he seems to get a lot of stick for some people as well. But for me and for young players, he was fantastic. Helped us out a hell of a lot, and he had loads of time for us. And just it was, and to end up playing in his testimonial is again something that can never be taken away from me. It was a unbelievable night, and such a great occasion for a player that's probably never gonna see anything like him in this league again. Are you?
No. Tom Dixon says, do you still talk or keep in touch with any of the former players?
I do keep in touch with a couple of lads. I mean, football's a funny thing. You tend to go your separate ways, but there's been a few players that I've kept in touch with. I mean, David Edgar's still one of my best mates, who I'm always in contact with. Andy Carroll, still speak to Andy, a big mate of mine from back in the day, as Michael Terrell told you in the car school. He was one of them. And there's lads that I played with at Norwich, the likes of Ryan Bertrand, who was a big mate of mine. Ched Evans, people like that, who I've probably the only ones I've really kept in touch with. I mean, a few others off social media, etc. But them were probably our biggest mates. And obviously Mickey Terrell and Nicky Davidix, who I'm back in, sort of involved with at Gated. We still always speak and have loads of banter.
Yeah, Mickey's asking what your favourite memory was of Magaluf in 2005, and would you get your hair braided again if you could go back?
I think he's getting one too many questions in here, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's trying to wind you up. Definitely.
We had a great time. It was actually where I met Jen, my wife. It was the first time I had met Jen, so obviously it was a good one. She wasn't having me with the braids, mind, or the big blonde ginger mop, but yeah. She found me a couple of months later when I got back.
John Bragg says, if the takeover gets the green light, which player would you like Newcastle to try and sign first?
I'd like to see maybe if Pochettino is somebody who they would look to go for, probably like to Harry Kane. If it was, I'd love to see him at Newcastle. I think an English player playing of his stature, playing at a club like Newcastle, I think, going back to Shearer there, it's, he's probably the closest you're gonna get, I think, in your current player, and being English as well.
Yeah. Next question: did it take time to acclimatise playing in England weather-wise? That's from Cy Blood.
I think it was easier, playing football over in South Africa in 35-degree heat isn't the easiest thing to do. Not when you're getting sun cream in your eyes.
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't. It's a perfect weather to play in for me.
He also asks, do you think this has been an issue for Joe Linton? The move, the transition from another country.
Possibly, but I mean, he played in the Bundesliga, so if you're gonna sort of put another league in Europe that's maybe similar to the Premier League in terms of the physicality, you'd probably say the Bundesliga. But it just hasn't happened for him, has it? And I don't think you can put it down to the climate. Whether it's taking time for him to settle. You just don't know. But it certainly hasn't happened for him at the moment.
Yeah. Borough Mag's asking, is the training ground as bad as the press suggests, Matty? I mean, I'm presuming he's talking about Newcastle, not Gateshead, but it's not great, is it? It's never really been improved for the last 20 odd years. So
yeah, well, I mean, I see pictures of it now, and I don't think it's changed too much from when I was there. Obviously when I was there, it was decent. But you're talking 15 years ago nearly now. So it's certainly, when you go up and down the country and you see some of the setups, in the Premier League, it's miles off. You look at the likes of Chelsea and City, Liverpool and all them, and it's nowhere near.
Yeah. Colin Wilson says, Matty, who would you like to manage Newcastle if Steve Bruce does leave?
I do like the sound of Pochettino. I think he'd be a good fit. I think he's got a lot of passion, and I've enjoyed watching him. I think he holds himself well when he speaks. I think he handles the media really well, and I think players will play for him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tom Dixon says, Matty, if Newcastle offered you the under-23 coaching job, would you take it?
It'd certainly be something that I would look at. So it would be hard not to, especially if you're trying to get on the right path in terms of coaching. It would be a big job, and one that could only go on to good things off the back of it. I'm really enjoying my time at Gateshead at the moment. I'm learning a lot along the way. I've got there's a good team of people there that I'm working with, likes of Mike Williamson and Ian Watson. Chris Bell. We enjoy working with each other, and that's where I'm at the moment. And I'm not going to say that I'd like to go anywhere else, or if I'm going to stay there for my whole career. I just don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah. LBans89 says, have you any advice for young footballers in grassroots looking to make the step into academies?
I just think that, especially in this modern day, it was maybe a little bit different when I was that age, because I think the games came on a hell of a lot, in terms of the levels and your fitness levels and all the sports science in the game. So I think the dedication has to be there from the start. You've got to come in and be willing to put the work in every day, and and you get your rewards off the back of that. And it's just got to be something that you has to be your priority.
Gent says, did you prefer 3 o'clock Saturday kickoffs or midweek games?
Definitely 3 o'clock kickoffs on a Saturday.
Yeah. Paddy B. Good says, does Eddie still bring up his goal against Manchester United? And what a night was that? What a night you had out afterwards.
Oh, no, not very often, no. No, he's ridiculous. He's still claiming that it wasn't a deflection. But
classic.
No, I think that the night after that would probably go down as one of the best nights we've had out after a game. It was just everything that that could have happened right that night did. And I think people forget we actually didn't win the game. We drew the game 2 each, but it certainly felt like a win.
Yeah.
And we were certainly acting like we won the game on the night out.
RPB says, which player used to give you the best advice or help in any team that you've played for?
I used to get a lot of advice off the likes of Nobby. It was great to give advice. Actually, I ended up sort of getting on really well with Nobby and having a good relationship with him. He would always help you because of the player he was and how clever he was. He was always 2 or 3 steps ahead of everyone else, and he could just turn it on when he wanted to. He was that clever in training with him every day. His quality was probably the best I've seen. Likes of Joey Barton was great to give advice. Butty was brilliant. Clarkey was great. Even though he used to just constantly hammer me, but he's when he could be serious, he gave some good advice.
Andy Mark 88 says, were you at the academy with Cookie? He was a goalkeeper, and if so, how did you rate him?
Yeah, I think he was a couple of years younger than me, Cookie, and I didn't really get to see a lot of him. He would have probably played a lot more in the academy when I moved up. But I did see bits of him, and he did have some quality, but probably not enough to make an honest assessment on.
Yeah. Matty, who was your favourite at Gateshead and why? That's from Tom Dixon. I'm not sure whether he's talking about first team or academy, so maybe he's talking about both. Is there players to watch out for at Gateshead at the moment?
Yeah, there's some really good players in the team at the moment. Jordan Preston's on hit a real good vein of form before we obviously stopped. He's got quality. And he sort of took his game to another level in the past couple of months. Greg Ollie's quality, a very good player. Nicky Devidics is slotted in when he's came in this season. Quality player. He's played. He's been around the sort of National League for a while now, and he was a great fit for us coming in. And he's an experienced lad now, a senior player, and he's good. And there's Elliot Forbes has came into his own coming in from the academy. He's done really well this season. So there's definitely a few to watch out for.
Dean Skelton says, who do you think is better, Matty or Sean Longstaff?
Again, I probably haven't seen enough of Matty. But what I have seen, he definitely looks quality. He's he seems to have that brain, that football brain that you need to really kick on in your career. He always seems to know that next pass. He's got that picture in his mind a lot of the time before the ball comes to him, and he just keeps his game simple, 1 and 2 touch, which you don't see enough of these days. But I think he's probably still a little bit off his brother. I think his brother's done really well. And probably there's been a lot of speculation about him, obviously in the past, and I don't think that's helped him. It's at times with his game, I think maybe looks like at times he's probably got a bit ahead of himself in terms of where he's at. But certainly has the potential to go on and have a fantastic career. Sean, that is, sorry.
Yeah, Sean, yeah. John Ball there, how do you rate young goalkeeper Jed Scott at Gateshead's Academy? Yeah,
good. Good little keeper. We've got a couple of good young goalkeepers at the club. Who we'll be keeping a close eye on. The system at the moment with the academy at Gateshead, it got itself to we sort of turned things around from where the club was. Before obviously the season started, the club was in a dire situation, as you probably know. And we've got the academy and everything sort of turned around and looking on the up. And the academy's been a big thing for us, and we've had some real quality players in. So yeah, he's not bad, to be fair.
Yeah, it's been a strange couple of years at Gateshead. Obviously, we had had that opportunity really for them to go up. They could have been in the league, but they had they fell at the final hurdle. Then financial issues, and then new owners, and the new owners were a strange bunch. Now, the club's been saved again. I think the question that gets asked the most about Gateshead is, it's about the ground. Do you think a move to a smaller ground, say like a ground the size of Wickham or the size of Dunstan, would be more beneficial for the club in the long run?
I think so, Steve. Yeah, I think if you asked anyone from Gateshead, that's probably, and I don't know this, but that's probably where everybody's thinking is for the future. We would love to have a new, something like a South Shields even. It's a compact, small ground that'll be massive for the community. It needs to be in the right place, and it's something I think it'll benefit the club, getting a better atmosphere at a club, having a stadium that's your own, and what comes with that is your profits and everything, with that, which we don't at the moment. It's a funny situation, obviously, with the council, so it's a little bit difficult. So that's something that certainly in the future would be great if we could get that at Gateshead, I think.
I always felt that a move back to Red Youth would have made more sense. You know, I mean, obviously the pits is down there, the five-a-side courts, and it's got a facility down there which could be temporarily used, I suppose, as a bar for the club. But it's, you know, moving back to Red Youth would make sense. Even traffic, it's not going to be completely overwhelmed. But you know, it does need to happen at some point, and hopefully it will. Talking about the non-league, you know, what's your views on the way that, you know, it was almost scrapped too early? I mean, we've seen, you know, ongoing discussions have now seen, obviously, the Premier League are gonna play out the rest of the season. You know, Championship still hasn't really been decided yet. League Two have obviously cancelled their season. League One are in the process of discussing what's going to happen there. Scotland today have announced that, you know, the season is now ended and, you know, Celtic have been declared champions. But the non-league, it seemed to me as if it was just rushed. You know, that, right, that's it, void the season. I felt it was pretty unfair, especially to one of your ex-teams, South Shields, who, you know, should have got promoted this season.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think that it felt, and I felt the same. I felt the decision was rushed. You know, it seemed to come very quickly compared to the rest of the leagues. Now, you know, I know non-league's a little bit different because, you know, the clubs can't function without the gates coming in and the money. But, you know, it's like I said earlier on in the conversation. It's just one of them scenarios where there's never going to be a right answer. But what I think the likes of, you know, Jeff Thompson, for example, at Shields, he just would have liked a bit more communication. I think there was a massive lack of that, and almost as if like they weren't really considered, or they weren't taken, you know, seriously, or whether what their thoughts or their opinions didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest and most frustrating thing. You know, when at the end of the day, I think the powers, obviously the higher powers that have decided, they probably have sat in a room and weighed up the pros and cons of all scenarios, and they probably have came up with the best option. But yeah, I think people would have liked a bit of communication, and you know that's the issue. It did happen a bit too quickly, and now we're slowly getting to know what's going to happen in terms of promotions, relegations, and you know. But certainly for the likes of Shields, it was a kick in the teeth because they looked almost certain to go up.
Yeah, bitter pill to swallow for them. Very unfortunate. Andy Mark says Cookie ended up playing in Peru when Nobby was manager. In all honesty, he was pants. Well, that's your opinion, not mine and Matty's opinion. Stephen says, how's Mike Williamson getting on a Gateshead? Do you think he could get into a higher league? No disrespect to Gateshead, who I'd love to see in the Football League. So he's just asking, I mean, Mike Williamson, has he got the potential, do you think, to get a job higher on at some point?
I think so, yeah. I think, you know, he's, like I was saying a bit earlier, he's very level-headed, Mike, and he doesn't get ahead of himself, or I think he's a massive thinker. You know, he'll only do something if he really thinks it's right. He's got his philosophy he believes in, and he won't ever stray away from that, I don't think. You know, so he's got all the right tools to become a very, very good manager. You know, and I think being a player, and a lot of people debate this, I think being a player certainly helps you in that transition into a manager. You know, and I think when he probably does decide to hang his boots up, he'll only go from strength to strength as a manager. You know, and I think the only thing he's thinking at the moment is he wants to get Gateshead back in that National League and then build from there and look at the league. As long as we get the right backing at the club, there's every opportunity that we can reach those goals and get the club back into the league. And I think what comes with that, like we just touched on earlier, is, you know, when there's a clear direction of where the club's going, which there is now, I think things like your own stadium and stuff like that starts falling into place a little bit easier.
Yeah. Bondi says, who was the best player you played against while playing for South Africa?
Best player? Trying to think of the games I played. I think at the time it probably would have been Keita, who was at Barcelona, who played Mali. I think he was probably the best player from an international point of view. obviously played with Benny McCarthy and Stephen Pienaar, in the South African squad, and they were two top players as well.
Yeah. Tom Dixon says, do you think Gateshead will strengthen in the summer?
I honestly don't know. Obviously we've been speaking not too much at the moment because we're not sure what's going to happen or when we're going to come back in, but whether budgets are going to be sort of what they were, or whether we're going to get more of a budget, we don't know. So a lot of who we bring in will depend on what we've got available. But certainly as a manager, you're always looking to strengthen and make that squad that little bit better.
Tom Lynch says, if the takeover goes through, Newcastle United should build a small stadium like Man City have for the women's team. They should build it in Gateshead and get Gateshead playing there too. I mean, I've said this for a long time. The link up between Newcastle and Gateshead is obvious. It should have happened a long time ago. And you would like to you'd like to think with the new owners coming in, it's certainly something they could look at. I know when Rafa was at the club, obviously I worked with Rafa for 3 years, that his team were certainly looking at investing time and effort into helping build links with the boys clubs. I went out and introduced them to the likes of Wallsend Boys Club, Redhoof, even teams further afield in Durham, and it's something which I think the new owners will certainly be looking at, building those links up, because it's vitally important, and building it with Gateshead would be superb because it gives that opportunity to blood academy players, doesn't it?
It does, and then it also gives Newcastle a great opportunity to get younger players out on loans, etc., and get them that vital experience that they need. Which to be fair has happened in the past. You would like a stronger link there, certainly, and I think with how close we are to each other, I think it's definitely something that could happen. Obviously, with Mike being there, there's a great link already. For obviously what he'd done for the club, and he spent some great times at Newcastle. Myself not so much, but it's certainly a link that I'm sure we would welcome.
Yeah. Paul Hove 20 says, our league are waiting on the Premier League decision, Steve. Thanks for that. John Ball says, do you think South Shields have the potential to become a league side, Matty?
100%. And out of all the non-league clubs within the Northeast, I think they've got the best opportunity. And obviously, just the way the club's run, what's been put into the club, the foundations, which again is what we want to be doing gated. It's fantastic. They've done things right at Shields, and it's a great little club with a good fan base. It's only going to get better and better. Big catchment area of supporters. I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Shields, and it was fantastic playing for the fans there. They got right behind the team, and they've got a good owner in Jeff, who I'm sure will do everything he can to try and get them where they need to be. I don't think he would have invested this much to sort of just hang about in the next league above or the one after that.
Yeah. I am Rod P says, what's your thoughts, Matty, on the Scottish Premier League awarding the title to Celtic today and giving Hearts the chop?
It's probably a fair shout, to be honest. I think they were well ahead, weren't they, Celtic? They were. I don't think Rangers were going to catch them. So, and in terms of Hearts, I didn't quite know where Hearts was sitting. I know they were struggling, but I didn't quite know where they were. But again, they probably don't make these decisions lightly, and it's probably the right outcome.
Yeah. Brad Chapman says, do you rate Spennymoor as a team?
Spennymoor's got some quality players. They're a team in, again, not a million miles away from Shields, but they've got an owner there that's willing to back the club and put his money where his mouth is, and you can see that by the quality of player they've brought into the club. And they've done really well over the years. Spenny, they've obviously, it's that next step that they just missed out on last season. But again, as long as clubs are backed in the right way, they've got every chance of doing well.
Tom Lynch says, with Sunderland's poor finances, could the next time we had Derby be Sunderland versus Gateshead?
But you never know. Stranger things have happened. I think once a football club goes into a decline, sometimes it can just keep going. You can just keep falling, can't you? And I'm sure a lot of Newcastle fans would love to see that. So I mean, to be honest with you, I always liked Sunderland being in the Premier League. Just to see that rivalry between the two was I never played in the derby, but I was lucky enough to be in squads and be involved firsthand. And to be fair, I don't think there's many derbies like that one.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible derby, a hell of an atmosphere. Amazing game. It must be an amazing game to play in.
Oh, and I always remember the away derby. I think the 4-1. I was in the squad that day. I didn't make the bench. I was up in the stands and just to see I always remember when Chop scored that goal after just coming on and seeing the reaction of the fans. I was just looking straight down at them. It was the atmosphere was like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah, lots of people saying, cheers lads, enjoyed the show, etc. Some people having to leave early, but they thoroughly enjoyed listening to you, mate. Matty, what do you think of Steve Watson going to York as manager? Tom Dixon said he's had a good season, hasn't he? Yeah,
he has, and I feel for Watto because he's again they were right in the mix to go automatic. So what happens there again? I'm not sure, but they've had a good season. I think a lot of people expected it with the budget they had. I think he was always going to bring in quality players and do well. Everybody loved him at Gateshead. They still speak highly of him. And they were a bit gutted when he left. But obviously he's went on. It was a good move for him, York, I think, and he's done a good job there. And if obviously you would like to see them go up because they're a massive club. That don't belong in the National League North.
Yeah. Glenn Halett says you joined Glenn Roeder at Norwich. Why do you think it didn't work out for him and Lee Clark down there?
I don't think it was a case of not working out. I think initially them coming into the club were in a horrendous position. When they brought myself in, we were sitting at the bottom of the league as well. But before they came in, they were even more adrift. So I think Glenn and Clark had come in really steadied the ship and done a fantastic job to keep us in the league that year. I think a big thing was probably Clark leaving. Because he was just that type of bloke who, when he wasn't around the place, you noticed it, and just the crack and. At the time, I don't think there would have been a better number 2 than him at the time for players to be that sort of go-to between the manager and the players. And I think him leaving probably, obviously he went to Huddersfield and done fantastically well with them, but I think that was a big thing for us. I think once he left, we struggled a little bit more, and I felt a bit sorry for Glenn in the end. I think given the time, he probably would have built something there. But to be fair to Norwich, they brought Brian Gunn in. It didn't necessarily work out there either. But he was a club legend. But the results didn't happen. And then they got Lambert in, and he ended up taking him back to the Premier League. So fantastic for the club.
Yeah, it's a tough industry, isn't it, football? And I mean, you're going down that route. You're coaching now, and what's your ambitions? Where do you see yourself? In 10 years' time. I know you've had a great career. You've enjoyed yourself. You by your own admission, you didn't put as much effort in. And that probably didn't lead you becoming a superstar. But what's next? Where do you want to go on the coaching side of things?
I've really enjoyed the coaching. It's just a complete different sort of different kettle of fish, and it's something that I can probably relate to players a lot more because I've probably made some mistakes. I'm a people person, and I like being involved with the young players and trying to guide them in the right way, trying to give them the confidence. And I think that's probably be my biggest strength up to now. I want to keep learning the game and going through the various badges. But obviously the main aim is to become a manager one day. I think I'll have what it takes. I think I'll have the mentality and the, you know, I think it's different to being a player. There's not that sort of yes, you have to be disciplined and you have to know your position and your job, but it's a little bit different to being a player, and it's something that I'm really enjoying. I've loved being involved in the first team setup, and you know, I'll keep learning and keep getting experience, and then who knows in the future. But obviously in the future, I want to be a manager at some point.
Yeah, some nice comments coming in. John Ball says, great show again, lads. It makes the lockdown a lot more bearable, having some good crack football or whatever the topic. Flash Foster says, great crack from Matty lad tonight. Jen says, really enjoyed tonight's episode. Keep up the great work and all the best, Steve. So thanks very much. Have you got a last minute, like a last message for the Newcastle fans tonight, mate?
Well, I just, you know, I'm saying a little prayer for them all. You know, it's a club that's I'm not going to say that I'm a huge Newcastle fan because I'm not, you know, but it's a club that holds a special place in my heart. I'll always keep an eye on what's happening, and it would just. I was lucky enough to be involved with the club in some capacity when there was good times there. You know, under Sir Bobby I was just sort of on the fringes when Sir Bobby left. You know, and he gave me my first start in the first team, and the couple of years leading up to that, there were some great times at Newcastle when we were qualifying for Champions League. You know, and to see St James's Park when we're playing for something, you know, with quality players in the team and you know, playing against the best teams in the league, and we, you know, we're holding our own, and we're doing like there's no better club in the world and there's no better atmosphere. And some of the atmospheres I've seen, you know, as a player, have been unbelievable. So, you know, I'm saying a little prayer for all the fans, and hopefully this gets done, and the club can go on to better things, because it certainly deserves it. I think when people say it's not a big club, if it happens, just wait and see how big they will be.
Great stuff. Mark Dill says, class Matty, send your Simon my regards. That's from Mark Dill. Bill from the Toon says, great show, lads. Well done, Steve. Great work. Steve Pine says, excellent watch, gents. All the best to you, Matty. Danielle says, let's all pray. Brad Chapman says, top work, Steve. Keep it going. Top man, Matty. Tom Dixon says, would love to have Matty back on here soon. Great crack. Nice work, fellas. It's endless, mate. Everyone's passing on their best and saying you know, that they've really enjoyed it. And Jack Gurr, who's out in Atlanta, he says great chats all week. So that's great stuff. Thanks very much, Matty. Been an absolute pleasure, mate. I'm sure I'll see you locally anyway. And you know, if this drags on, it'd be nice to get you back on as well if the takeover goes through, and get you on for an update.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, Steve. I've really enjoyed it, mate. Top man.
Take care, mate. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. Bye-bye.